Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Gone Fishing. I'm your host, Connor, CEO at Phin, and I am joined by Matt Quammen, the co-founder and president of Optimized Cyber. Matt, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Connor.
Oh, anytime. For folks who aren't familiar with you and aren't familiar with Optimized Cyber, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and about Optimized Cyber?
Absolutely. So my background's in business development, going back 15 years in technology, and the last 8 focused in cybersecurity. Kind of got drafted into cybersecurity and didn't think I'd enjoy it. And it took about 2 days just to fall in love with it, right? Because as you and I were talking off air, like we know this secret knowledge that the whole world is now worried about, every business owner, every individual, and we get the chance to help them out. So I love it and fell in love immediately. Optimized Cyber is a penetration testing and risk assessment company. So what we do is we parachute into accounts of any business out there and assist them with their risk assessment needs, which come from a lot of different regulations or people choosing to as well. But about 80% of it's driven by people's needs, whether it's a banking, credit union, all sorts of different regulations. And then on the penetration testing side, my co-founder is one of the best offensive security folks in the country. Multiple times has finished on the podium at DEF CON. And basically we also parachute in as that third party to do the penetration test, find some new things for some new gaps for IT services providers to fix for their clients. And then we fly back out.
Not in the parachute. You put the jetpack
No,
on and fly
yeah,
out.
jetpack. Yeah, there we go.
You're on the ground already, so you need to somehow get some lift going. What do you think the roles of MSP should be in cyber risk management?
Well, honestly, whenever I talk to MSPs, I try to point out to them that the biggest risk for all of us is not your competition. It's not that MSP that's 5 miles over. The biggest competition is all these business owners that are too afraid and have their head in the sand about cyber risk. So what we need to do, everyone in this community needs to make this an approachable topic for folks. The amount of times people find out what I do, out and about, whatever, at an event, whatever, not even related to this industry. And then they say, "Ooh, ransomware, like that keeps me up at night as a business owner. Like it's the scariest thing." And I would say, why? There's way bigger things to be scared of, I'm not going to list all of them, but there's a lot of scary things in the world. So whenever I get the chance with MSPs, any IT services providers or any IT pros out there, we just need to evangelize the 3 foundations that you need to do as a business to manage cyber risk. You need to have insurance, so somebody to pay for that worst day. You need to have 24/7 security operations from somebody. That can be internal SOC, internal IT, an MSP, MSSP. It can be managed service. But day to day, red flag goes up in the environment. What happens? Who do you call? And then you need to take care of your regulatory requirements, your overall risk management strategy. That's where we come in. But if you do those 3, there's no reason that this should be a concern to you as a business. Like ransomware always sucks, but it sucks a lot less when you have all your ducks in a row and it's not going to be terminal for your business.
I talk with a lot of MSPs whose clients were saved with either the combination of the cyber insurance payout with backups as well that actually were segregated and were immutable and didn't get compromised when the ransomware started to proliferate, or they have some kind of EDR solution that caught it immediately. They segmented off one endpoint that ended up being the only endpoint that got corrupted, and then as a result ransomed. But that's way better than business shuts its door for at least a few days.
Oh yeah, I mean 21 days on average, and if that's the average, that means some people are down 60, 90 plus days. So again, to the original point, it's like get out there in your community and make sure every business understands this is doable. It's much less expensive than you think to manage cyber risk. The Pentagon still gets breached, so nobody's ever going to be impervious to a cyber attack. but you can be resilient as a business, and you can make sure that the lights aren't going out.
I used to say if you went back to stone tablets, you'd still have somebody that would send carrier pigeons trying to get you to pay invoices that you didn't actually need to. So Absolutely. It doesn't. Yeah. I also have some people disagree with this opinion as well, but I've said it several times on the podcast, is security really exists to secure convenience. It's like software is largely created as an endeavor to make somebody's job easier and more scalable. They get more work done without putting in more effort. And so when you're, even when you're talking about, let's say you're working with an MSP talking about cyber risk management, it's like if any of your recommendations start with, we're going to make the employees' lives harder in this way for the sake of security. It's like we should start from the place of this software exists because people want convenience. And if we don't give that to them, they're just going to find a way around it anyway. And, all of this conversation is moot.
Well, even think of the impact that you guys are having from a training perspective outside of just their capacity in business. A lot of people lose their life savings to attackers personally. Right.
Yep.
If you through your MSPs, through your customers, can share that knowledge, so people are more suspicious, people are more aware in their personal lives, that's an awesome impact to have too. So upskilling everyone it's not just for the business. I almost think businesses should look at this as like, we're helping you on a personal level too, and helping you understand the cyber threats that are out there, so that you, your family, your community can be safer.
There's actually the only movie I've ever seen about social engineering, social engineering on the elderly. It just came out with Jason Statham. It's called Beekeeper. It's actually a really good movie, by the way. I'd highly recommend you go watch it.
I'm going to write that down right now.
Yeah, it's just called Beekeeper. And I won't tell you why it's called that, but it's about social engineering working on the elderly. And the story that the movie ends up walking through is one that I've heard several times from people who have family members who have had their life savings stolen. And as a result, can't retire, or, worse off is like they can't pay medical bills or some other thing.
Yeah. And to your point about convenience, look at people closing on a business or on a vacation home. Previously, you bring a checkbook, or the bank has to write you a cashier's check, right? And you have to meet in person. Now it can be done through a wire, and you never have to meet those people, and you save yourself an hour. Well, millions, maybe hundreds of millions, maybe billions have been lost through those wires. So now you see a lot of title companies and brokerage companies going back to saying, we're only taking cashier's checks. We're not ever doing any wires, and we're going to meet in person. So yeah, it's a little bit slower, but if that stops your clients from falling victim to these types of things, that's what you got to do. So obviously that's a trade-off, and you can't slow down everything in business, because the risk of being non-productive and losing your business that way is bad too. So you got to find that balance, as you know, but I see it far too often.
There's a popular video game streamer by the name of Pirate Gaming, guy by the name of Thor. And the reason I bring him up is he made the following statement, and I was watching this on his stream a few weeks back. He said, my likeness is everywhere online. You Google my name and you get thousands of hours of my voice and my face. So if somebody wanted to leverage AI to recreate my voice, to say anything they want, and to recreate my physical, like in a video, to have me do anything they want, it's possible with today's technology. Imagine what it'll be like 5 years from now. So he actually had his bank sign an agreement that he wrote that was to the tune of, you only transfer money out of my account if I am in person and verifying my identity, and I'm doing it in your branch offices. At the penalty of, if you do this and we did not follow this process, you pay for the damages, you give me my money back, even though you lost it. It's like, how many more people are going to do something like that? Like, my likeness is online. Your likeness is probably online somewhere. So
how many people should do that? Every single business owner. Every single business owner should be doing that. Anyone with a notable amount of money, right? You go to your regional credit union, regional bank, go into that office. I got a whole protocol I can send you after this, Connor, but set up your account services. Make sure notifications happen on every single transaction. You get another text message, because if you act quickly, you can probably get them reversed. You can set up those protocols where 2 people have to authorize, 2 people with tokens have to go in and authorize. You can have callback requirements. So anyone with notable assets should be doing this and configuring your bank account that way, to make sure that it's difficult. When we talk about wire fraud, we spend a lot of time at Optimized Cyber with our risk assessment on wire fraud. Wire fraud's so bad, you can largely not even buy cyber insurance for it. You can buy cyber insurance for it, but the limits are extremely low. If you look at most $1 million policies, it's $100,000 or $250,000 they'll pay out. You know how bad a risk has to be if an insurance company doesn't want your money to insure that for you? Really, really bad. So we need offline solutions, and a lot of that involves go into your bank, work with somebody, have that personal relationship. There's a lot of processes you can set up so that money can't be wired out easily, where it's relatively easy for attackers to get control over either your email or one of your vendors' emails, and get money sent to them. Well, if we have these protocols in place that prevent the money from leaving, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, it does. Story that I tell all the time is business email compromise is the majority of social engineering related theft, and a lot of cybercrime. Actually, it's not like you had mentioned earlier. Don't let the black swan 0-day leveraged into your computer to ransom it event be the thing that keeps you up at night. You know what it really should be is one of your vendors reaches out and says, change my banking information. Because that is far more likely to result in you losing much more money than anything else.
And you can't be insured, and you can't really insure it. Here's a PSA for everybody out there. That's not what FDIC insurance is for. It does not pay you back for those types of fraud. The FDIC insurance is if your bank goes under. You are not getting a payout for this. So you really need to be on top of your bank accounts. And this is stuff that the MSP and IT services community needs to talk about, because nobody out there can guarantee that we're going to keep every email of your company safe from phishing, from BEC type attacks. And even if we keep your company safe, what about your biggest vendor? What about your biggest client? What about your biggest client's biggest vendor? Like, that's all out of our control. But what we can control is how you operate as a business and how you wire money, how you receive money, and be smart about that so that if anything does go wrong, you can get the money clawed back.
That is true. A question I would love your input in on is when MSPs are talking to these small businesses, or when you're talking to these small businesses directly, the sentiment is often like, why should a small business care so much about cybersecurity when there are other things for them to worry about, like putting food on their own table, or making payroll, or inflation shooting prices up and everywhere, and their cost of goods goes way up. So it's like, why should cyber be at that table with those other problems when it's of that scale? How does an MSP navigate that kind of conversation?
Cyber risk should be their priority because it's manageable. You can't manage inflation. There's nothing you can do if your suppliers charge you 10% more next month, other than find new suppliers. But you need to put things in the category of what you can control, and you can control cyber risk in a fairly efficient manner. It obviously costs a little bit of money, but far less than most people are guessing. These other things that, are a bigger risk to the company, are geopolitical, macroeconomic factors that you cannot control. So let's handle what we can handle and protect the business. That's what risk management is all about. Control what you can control, look at the impact of a certain incident happening and a probability of that incident happening. And that's your total risk. If you can't control it, then you just live with it. But if you can control it, like with cyber risk, let's go manage it the best we can and stretch our security dollar to safeguard the company.
That makes a ton of sense. When you're working with MSPs and you're helping them communicate the value of all this, of managing the risk, like you had said, it's one thing that you can manage. What are some of the tools you use to help small businesses understand that?
Well, we work with MSPs and IT services providers solely as the third party to come in for pen testing and risk assessment. The reason we set out the company to be such a niche player is a lot of MSPs and IT service providers don't have a good option to bring in a pen test firm that is not going to try to steal their client, right? 99% of the market is coming in to steal your client if they're coming in for a pen test. That's why we set out to say, hey, in more of a kumbaya moment, we're going to come in and we're going to do a pen test and we're going to learn from it. We're going to find what we're going to find and help improve security out of that. But we're not here to then say, oh, Connor's MSP is trash. We found one medium vulnerability. Of course, you have to switch today. They are so bad, right? We come in from a coaching perspective just to find things and help move them forward. On the risk assessment side, same thing, right? Banks, credit unions, anyone lending money, healthcare. A lot of people are required to do a risk assessment. Very similar to the pen testing side, but we're coming from a 10,000-foot view. Again, our goal is to come in and increase security quickly and point out some things that were overlooked. Again, when it comes to cyber risk, only about 50, 60% are things that an IT service provider can control. About 40% of cyber risk is business operations. So if we can come in and help on that side to improve the safety that you have with your business operations, how you send money, wire money, internal communications, policies that are enacted, excuse me, we can greatly increase security. Now, as an MSP, as an IT services provider, my client's safer. My client has done everything they need to from a regulatory standpoint, and they're much less likely to leave my company because I've gotten them to a safer place, right? If I don't have an incident, I'm much less likely to go ahead and switch my MSP than if I do have an incident.
That makes a ton of sense. For folks who wanted to connect with you or connect with Optimize Cyber, where would you suggest they go?
Just find Optimize Cyber on LinkedIn, optimizecyber.com. Yeah, we're not hard to find.
Awesome. For folks, if you've been listening or watching, we'll have links to Matt and Optimize Cyber in the show notes. So feel free to reach out and say, hey. Matt, thanks so much for joining me today. It was a blast having you on.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate the time.
Anytime. See you all in the next episode. As always, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to Gone Fishing. If you want to find out more about high-quality security awareness training campaigns, how to launch them in ways that actually engage employees to change their habits, then check us out, Phin Security, at phinsec.io. That's phinsec.io, or click all of the wonderful links in our show notes. Thanks for fishing with me today, and we'll see you next time.